Hi English 110 students. I wanted to make a short video about how to read a scholarly research article. But first I want to talk a little bit more about why you would want to have research articles in your essay. So one thing to keep in mind is that your chance of encountering junk in your research, if you just look around on the internet, it's pretty high, which is why I'm asking you to use the library databases. As you get into academic journals and scientific journals, your chance becomes much lower because those journal articles are reviewed by a group of experts before they're published. So they're very credible, they're very trustworthy, they're rigorous, and they have a lot of good data. Another nice thing about those articles, academic journals, scientific journals, even if the author has a bias or a specific point of view, they tell the reader what they weren't able to prove with the research. So there's usually a whole section where it talks about limitations. So what the study didn't prove and what needs to be researched more. So they're very good about making claims and then telling us which claims they could prove and which claims they don't quite have enough evidence for. A lot of you mentioned when we read the piece about poor Americans eating unhealthfully that it felt very opinionated and the language was very casual, and some of you said you felt like you couldn't quite trust it. So great job being strong readers and noticing things about tone and style. And you were exactly right. This is an opinion piece that was published on the LA Times. So because of that, it's very short, it's not very detailed, it is casual language, it doesn't sound very academic. I wanted to point out that it actually was written by an expert and that actually she did have a longer research article that she published in a scientific journal. So if you come across something, in a newspaper article and you see that it says something like over here at the bottom where it says my research showed this, my research suggests, you can click on that link and it might be that there is a scholarly journal article published on that same topic. So when I click that link here, we'll see that it's by the same author, but it's a scientific journal article published in the Journal of Sociological Science, which is published by Stanford University. So what you're going to get is a much more detailed point of view, better evidence. It's going to be written in a more academic tone. So this would really be a better source for your research essay. I want to give a little bit of advice for how to read journal articles when you do find them. So many journal articles, especially articles written in APA style, APA stands for American Psychological Association, have the following section headings or something similar to them. Usually you'll see an abstract, introduction and background, data and methods, finding results, discussion conclusion, and references. So my advice to you is don't read the whole article. Be very strategic about what you read, because there's going to be sections in there that are not useful for your purposes as a student writing a research essay. So first off, let's talk about the abstract. So what's the abstract for? It is an overview of the whole article. It's a comprehensive overview of everything the article covers. So if you read the abstract and the article doesn't seem useful, don't read it. Don't spend your time on it. Find a different article. And then let's take a look at the keywords. What are those for? Those are search terms that you could use to find more articles. Those are what's used by the databases. So let's say you're interested in diet and the way that income affects how healthy people's food choices are. You might want to pay attention to these keywords because you might write something like wealth. But really, you're going to find better results if you use one of the keywords like socioeconomic status. So it's just something to keep in mind as you're researching. So the introduction section and the background section are usually the next sections. I would recommend reading the introduction more than once if the ideas are complex. Here is where you're going to get a lot of background about the topic. And you'll see a lot of other studies are often cited in this section, so there might be some good sources you want to check out. And then the background, I would say skim this for data relevant to your research essay. It typically has really good statistics in this section. Then you're going to see the data and methods and data analysis. This provides very, very detailed description of how the participants and the work selected, how the data was collected, how the data was analyzed. So what I want you to think about for a second is what this section is for. So what is this doing in the research article? What is the researcher's purpose for giving all this detail? Basically, the purpose is so that other researchers can go and duplicate the study, replicate it, and see if they get similar results. So you do not need to read this. You're not, for this class, conducting your own original research. So you don't need the minutia of how to replicate the study. You're not replicating a study. So skip this. It's not going to have anything that's useful for this class. The findings, I also recommend skimming it. So you might briefly read it. The discussion and conclusions is really where you're going to find the most useful information. So read this really carefully. This is where you're going to find the argument, quotes that you might use, so definitely take a close look at this. And then the references is great too. This lists all the sources. So if you find an article that is perfect for your research essay, very closely aligned to your purpose and your argument, then I would suggest trying to read and find some of the references. Sometimes they're actually linked, which is really nice. So this first one, you could just click this link and it will open it. Other times they're behind a paywall and they're not linked, but you could use the title to search our library databases. So basically, to sum up, don't read the whole article. Skip the methods and results, read the abstract, introduction, and discussion. So this article that we just looked at, The Taste of Inequality, is 24 pages long. But the portion that would actually be useful for you to read and that you might find information for your paper in is only 4 pages long. So just read that section. There's this interactive tutorial that I will link on Canvas that I'd like you to check out later. But it's nice. It just kind of goes over the anatomy of a scholarly article, telling you what you find in each section of the article. So check that out if you're more of a visual learner. I think that's a useful way of looking at it. So just to sum up, you don't have to find a scholarly article, but